Good afternoon, dear methodologist. The trajectory which led us to convening here started 19 years ago, 2003, when Benoit and myself met. And the trajectory will be explained by Benoit. I just say this is the success of a 19-year endeavor. I would like to welcome you, and I hope that we will have an illuminating conference. And let me keep it short and just thank those who have been involved in selecting the papers. Sarah van Bell, sitting over there. Okay, that's me. Benoit Rioux was involved, and Iringam Utlu, where's she? Ah, there, up there. So we had a couple of meetings over the last month discussing how we set up the conference, whom we put in which panel, and we hope that as few as possible people are dissatisfied where we put them. It was a challenge, given that papers were submitted, papers were withdrawn, and so we had to mingle around quite a bit. So we hope everything runs well. From the executive board, I would like to thank Anka Keres, where she, I don't see her, for supporting us. And last but not least, Anna Foley. She's not here, but she's actually the mastermind in the back who is moving us on the right time, the right location, and the local person, Catherine Goussens, who has made sure that we can be here and that all the rooms are where they are. So I'm looking forward to hearing what you're saying, to meeting you, to talking to you, and I now hand over the floor to Benoit. Thank you very much.
Many thanks, Bernard. Welcome to you all as well. From myself as MethodsNET chair and local academic organizer of the 3 launch events, in particular the conference. And first, I should also start by thanking our long list of local and proud sponsors, which are diverse units and entities of the UC Louvain, which gives us a very strong backing, not only for the launch events, but also for the development of MethodsNET. So I will not detail the form of support, but I will just list the entities. Our sector of social sciences and humanities that resonates with the scope of MethodsNET is supporting us. The Prorector for Research, who covers the whole of the university, is also very supportive and helps us to record the main sessions via the professional service of the UC Louvain. Our Council for International Affairs is so very supportive and has funded some elements of these events, plus a major initiative called the Africa Methods Excellence Initiative, at least some first seed money. And then there's a number of institutes, the Political Science Institute, ISPOL, the IRSS, Health and Society, an innovative ERC proof of concept project, co-led by 2 fellow UC Louvain colleagues around coding procedures, feeding a major workshop here in Louvain-la-Neuve during the launch events, the IACOS Institute, Diverse Social Sciences, the Lourim Institute, around management research, the CESPOL Research Center, Political Science, Comparative Politics, and then our fellow colleagues in political science at Saint-Louis, the Brussels side of the UC Louvain in social sciences. So you can see from the support that there is great engagement from these colleagues and entities within UC Louvain, and we are very grateful to our institution. Now I take back the hat of chair of MethodsNET, and I would like to present to you the short story of MethodsNet and what it's all about. I will make it quite short, and you will find much more information on our web pages and in our digital communication. And this is, I would call it MethodsNet 1.0. We, up till 1 year ago, were in the stage of MethodsNet 0.1. And I will tell you the story of these jumps. It is your global network in the making. What is our DNA? Our DNA is to have a mission, a shared vision, gathering multiple scholars, experts, and users across multiple disciplines, across what we define as human sciences in the broad sense. And this covers dozens of disciplines and interdisciplinary fields. And in this very broad and huge and very diverse field, which, by the way, also goes all the way to medicine. Medical research is also human science in many ways. In this very broad scope of or territory, we aim to provide increased global access to cutting-edge research methods at different levels, in particular at the PhD level and advanced level. We also aim to be a place or a platform to facilitate research methods development and innovation. And last but not least, all of this in a spirit of pluralism, which many colleagues in this room, and also myself and Bernard, have been pushing a lot over the years, way before MethodsNet was initiated. Secondly, values. There is no mission without background values, deeper values we believe in. Pluralism, I mentioned, which entails or necessitates dialogue. We may disagree, but always with courtesy and respect. And we may learn from other perspectives. Equitable access, in particular, financial accessibility of whatever activities we develop. And that's very much connected, following a not-for-profit logic, sustainable logic in terms of course, income structure, but still the purpose is service. It's a service logic, not a profit logic. And so, cutting a long story short, this is a global network of both expert developers, teachers, and user learners. In a way, it's a double network. It enables expert-to-expert interaction, learner-to-learner interaction, and also across these two spheres, if I may say. I will make this pretty short. This is MethodsNet 0.1 until late 2023. We launched MethodsNet only 3 years ago, roughly. 4 of us who were engaged in some prior related activities around methods training. Derek Beach from Aarhus, Denmark, Levi Lidvai from CEU, Hungary, Kai Wilkinson from Deakins, Australia, and myself. With many, many diverse colleagues around us, roughly 200 founding members, many of whom are in this room today. And we took a light legal form, a not-for-profit association based in Belgium. And this enables us to further develop with a solid foundation. We had a very, very basic website, homemade, if I may say, and we started from the bottom up, starting with a few hundred correspondents to more than 3,000 recipients, including many organizations. And now we are, as I speak today, close to 5,000. We began to circulate information, also in a very, let's say, homemade fashion. And we, importantly, decided to launch a first event, the Summer School in Social Science Research Methods. And we already had 3 editions in Nijmegen, Netherlands. And we're going to move now to Vienna. That's upcoming, I will explain to you. We also held some editions of the Aarhus workshops, very complementary to the summer school. This attracted quite a number of young researchers across Europe and beyond. And then we also began to endorse some connected events, the COMEX Excellence Workshops in Constance, the Lugano Summer School in Switzerland, and then other diverse venues that we also endorsed, especially training venues. All right, now MethodsNet 1.0, which is now in the making, it started only 6 months ago, in March 2024. When we made the decision a few months earlier to scale up as a global membership-based association with a full membership structure, with also institutional partners more in a formalized way, also developing an institution in many ways, including an executive board now with 6 members, with a support team and all the logistics around it, and the beginning of a proper professional digital infrastructure, website, back office tools, databases, and so on and so forth. But that's the back office side of it. What you see at the shop window is, of course, what we offer on the ground, the events, the summer school, that's now going to grow further in Vienna, the conference, welcome again, the Research Methods Teaching COP, Cognitive Practice event, and the Methods Development and Innovation workshops. These are brand new events, pilot events. We'll see how they further develop in the next few years. And there will be more events being developed by us, in particular via a major initiative called the Africa Methods Excellence Initiative, which I have no time to present today. But much more will come up in the next 2-3 years. I would like to finish my presentation about MethodsNet with 3 zoom-ins. The first one is about the membership benefits that you can get via joining MethodsNet. We have chosen a model of individual membership. 2 types, basically two categories and then subcategories of members. First, expert members, either senior or more early career, the future senior experts. And as you can see, there is a long list of currently existing benefits, the discounts at the events, the ability and the inclusion in a specific mailing list to receive targeted information for experts, and then a whole list of other work in progress services that will materialize in the next few months, weeks and months. Invitation to method expert only sessions. The inclusion of these experts, of you as experts, in a global experts database to showcase your expertise, make it available more globally, showcasing your expertise. Possibly have a leading role in the communities we'll be developing. That's the next point. And also the potential for you, if you want to share your material with fellow colleagues, fellow experts in particular, things like syllabi or reading lists. These are all work in progress projects. And then regular members, i.e. those who are more senior but not in a proper sense methods experts, but who are also learners and users of methods, and also, of course, more junior like PhD students and perhaps even also advanced master students, who also receive multiple benefit discounts, again, especially for the summer school. We'll make sure to make a big differential in the fee structure, receiving targeted information as learners, being able to engage in member-only communities, and gaining access, member-only access to these resources fed by the experts via MethodsNet. and much more. I could go on with a quite long list of things we're developing as I speak. So welcome as members. Today we had an extremely interesting brainstorming exercise trying to develop or to clarify, to further, let's say, collectively co-produce the perimeters of the soon-to-be MethodsNet communities. These are member-driven digital platforms that are designed to enable collaboration, innovation, and engagement in a very flexible way among you as members via a secure login access. It's your own digital space, or spaces with an S. And what makes this really unique is that these are very much bottom-up, flexible, organic, and developed by you. And we will use an interface, a quite advanced one, that will enable you to share and to exchange in multiple ways, text, image, discussions, meetings, multimedia, whatever. And so a lot of MethodsNet activities will be your own activities in these communities that you will build from the bottom up. And we have made a list of 7 initial perimeters that you can read here. And this is temporary. The purpose of today's brainstorming was precisely to think about, to reflect about these perimeters, and also most likely to enable cross-community, more transversal conversations or spaces. And for this, we will find the adequate technical solutions. And you have a QR code there, and you can pre-register to these communities, which I must stress are limited, are a benefit to members only. Last but not least, a few words about our stunning 2025 summer school in the stunning city of Vienna, held with the CEU Central European University in Vienna. Also old companions with whom we've collaborated in the past in other qualifications. This will take place from June 30th to July the 18th, 2025. And it will be a 2+1 week format, with first week 1 online preparatory and software courses especially, followed by 2 very intensive weeks, 1+1 weeks of specialized courses across the full array of methods. So this is a very, very exciting and very unique package in which you have these very specialized courses, advanced, intermediate, introductory, taught by top pedagogues who are also methods experts, of course, but who actually are keen on teaching. They're motivated by teaching, by transmitting knowledge. And these colleagues, fellow colleagues, will offer hands-on training. They will enable users to engage in one-to-one mentorship or to access one-to-one mentoring and to make progress in their projects. In addition, and that's pretty unique, I think, is a full plenary program, which is optional. You can choose à la carte, and then follow a series of short courses and transversal or cross-cutting courses or sessions as you see best. And reflect and take a step back away from the segmented logic of many courses, in fact. Last but not least, again, all this at a very affordable cost. And with, this, of course, a significant discount for members. The fresh news is that it is now online. There is basic information online on our webpage. You can find it easily via our menu. And much, much more will come in the next few weeks. And also the timeline for registrations will be soon online. I'm almost finished. So what's next and how to engage? There's many ways. This is non-limitative. You may join simply as individual members. You may be first movers whatever your seniority, whatever your level of qualifications, whether you're a user or an expert, no problem. Just join these communities and co-build them. Come to Vienna. In the summertime, it's a great city. It's a great city altogether, but especially in the summer. Very nice weather too, and it's a very, very exciting city. And join us for the second MethodsNet conference. The dates and location will be communicated as soon as possible. And if you want individually to engage more or even much more with us, being engaged in let's say, closer to us, to the leadership of MethodsNet, you want to really engage as a priority in your trajectory, and you want to engage with us, please tell us, and we can discuss about it. We are very flexible. We work via projects, and you may be associated to this or that project or event. And by the way, we will very likely send 1 or 2 or 3 calls for specific events or positions, etc., in the next few months, or at least during the next year. And if you represent an institution or an association, we offer multiple ways to partner up with us, always in a win-win collegial and flexible approach. And if you have sponsors, you are sponsors and you have money to spend, welcome. If you want to be also first movers. All right. Are there any quick questions? Or was I clear or too fuzzy or too long already? Okay, so again, much more information on our web pages and in all our digital communication and in the corridors of this place and out there. And now I give the floor to my fellow colleague Bart Cambrai from the Undergraduate School of Management, who will take the floor. Do you want to take the microphone? Yes? And I will move the slides.
Okay. Thank you. When he said, "Welcome to Vienna," I almost feared that he was going to sing the famous song by Ultravox, but thank God he didn't. So, yes, my name is Bart Cambrai. I'm a professor in research methods at University of Antwerp and Antwerp Management School. And I'm happy to introduce this panel. But first, yes, please, people who are sitting on the stairs, take the time to sit on the chair. No? Oh, so, okay, yeah. Good, because we're also going to do an experiment now, because I'm going to ask these academics to be very short in their answers, so that we can stop on time. So this is an experiment, and we're looking forward to that already. So welcome to our panel, featuring 3 distinguished experts driving critical innovations in methodology. Together, Professor Agustina Kodua from the University of Ghana, Professor Chris Shore from Goldsmiths University London, and Professor Kosuke Imai from Harvard University bring a combined age index of 130 and over 65,000 citations. But as Professor Shore, an expert on power and ideology, might remind us, these metrics are all very relative. Agustina is a leader in research on health policy and pharmaceutical systems. Chris delves into the anthropology of policy, examining how power and rankings shape institutions. And Kosuke is an authority in statistical and computational methods, and he contributes it's really groundbreaking work on causal inference and policy evaluation. So what a panel this is. And the question I asked to these panel members is to say something from their own background on the main ongoing methodological innovations and developments in their field. So we spend the entire field of methods probably, and especially if they see in their field like 1 or 2 particular game changers that we should know or we should be aware of. Okay, so that's the question to the panel members, and I suggest we go one by one, like they have 5 minutes each, which for an academic is like impossible, but we will try. And then afterwards there is still time for questions from your side, all right? So I say we go in this order, is that okay for you? So then you have the first one.
Okay. Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm usually based in Boston, but I'm on sabbatical at Oxford, so it was a relatively short trip. It's great to see all these people interested in different aspects of the methods. I wanted to just mention a few things that I think it's quite exciting and interesting in my own field, which is sort of broadly statistical applications and computational social sciences. I think in the background, I think we all need to recognize that we are at the time of sort of transformation, technological transformation. So I think the biggest thing that happened obviously is the ChatGPT, but the development of machine learning algorithms and use of AI has been progressing very, very fast last 20 years. So in our field, I think that is the background that everyone I think should be aware of. And the first thing that quite important is how those technologies impact humans, right? So at least at this point in time, we humans make important and also non-important decisions. So for example, when I go online and purchase something, algorithm may suggest something, but I'm the one who click and put in the cart and then pay it, right? I haven't gotten to the point yet. Alexa, do the grocery shopping for me this week. So the question is, all these algorithms and AI are affecting human decisions, important decisions such as in the criminal justice system, in the medicine. So the question, I think for methodologists, one important question is how to evaluate the impact of these technologies on human decisions. Are they helping the humans make better decisions? Are they making the decision fair? Okay, so this is different from just studying the algorithm itself or the AI itself. AI is biased, but humans are also biased. So the question is how those two things interact in different contexts. And that's a much deeper question, because the study of AI is, in some sense, it's simple. It's just a mathematical object. I mean, it's still complicated, but it is something that we can get a handle of. Studying of humans, as you all know, is a lot more difficult, right? With the same algorithmic recommendations, different humans might react differently in different contexts. And so I think there's a huge role for the social scientists to play in general, whether you're taking a qualitative or quantitative approach. I think there's opportunities there for us to sort of understand how this technology, which is gonna continue to develop, is affecting us and the society in general. So that's one thing. The second thing I would like to also mention is, as a social scientist, I've been also thinking about how to use these technologies in our own research. So already I've been talking to several people over lunch. They've been doing the projects to use AI to annotate large corpus of text and images and so on. And so the question is, from our point of view, like a statistical and computational approaches, we know that those AI technologies are biased. It's incredibly good, but it's still biased. So the question is, how do we combine like human efforts with the AI technologies to do better? So there's a couple papers that I started to see where we developed the statistical approaches to eliminate the bias of the AI annotation by combining that with small amount of human expert coding. So there are technologies like that we can use to, as a scientist, we should be also leveraging these technologies in our own research. And finally, I think there's a question about, what can MethodsNet do? I'm new to MethodsNet, so I don't know exactly what you guys could do, but I think the fact that there are people with different background are gathering here, that's really important. We often tend to cluster with people with similar interests from the same discipline and so on. So it's important to have a place where scholars of different background get together to discuss different topics. One challenge I think is that whether that leads to actual research collaboration or teaching collaboration. We can always chat, especially over Great Beer or Belgium, no problem. We can all talk. But doing the research, writing the papers together, maybe teaching a course together, with people, of different background, that's a lot more difficult. And I think the challenge is even greater when the two people come from very different backgrounds. So one person coming from very technical background, the other person coming from very substantive background. But when that collaboration, if we can make that happen, we all know there's a huge potential for great research. So I try to work with people who are far different from the background that I have. So my collaboration currently, for example, includes someone who is teaching in the law school, studying the criminal justice system. We're trying to evaluate the question of how the algorithm affects the judge's decision. And I benefit greatly. In fact, the project wouldn't be possible without someone who actually knows the stuff, right? As opposed to someone who doesn't really know the stuff. So I think if the MethodsNet can bring those collaborations together somehow, I don't know, through conferences or through other means, that would be an incredible thing. So I'll stop here.
Okay, so thank you. I'm Augustina, and I'm a health policy and systems researcher. So just before I tell you about the innovations in this field, I want to briefly explain what we mean by health policy and systems research. So this is a multidisciplinary field, and there's a much focus on improving health systems, policies, and the impact on population health. Now, in health systems, we aim to understand a bit more in depth. How do we develop policies? How are these policies implemented? And what is the effect on the health system? We are also looking at outcomes. So usually we are interested in studying broadly who are these actors involved in developing the policies. How are these policies being implemented? So we are looking at the policymakers, practitioners, researchers. In a nutshell, health policy systems research seeks to address real-world issues, policy implementation, systems performance, and equity. Okay. Now, in terms of methods, I want to focus on 4 main innovations. And the first one is systems thinking and complexity science. And I'm sure most of us have ideas around this. So when we think about systems thinking, we are looking at the health system as a complex adaptive system with different interactive components. So when you are studying such a system, you are not just focusing on a linear relationship, but the complexity. How do you capture the dynamic relationships within the system? And how do you account for this in a systematic way? Okay. So it means complexity science is very important and is catching up when it comes to health systems research. We are also looking at network analysis. And I think later in the day, the social network analysis is very important when it comes to health systems research. The second innovation is implementation research and realist approaches. Implementation science is focusing on how health interventions are effectively integrated in real-life settings. So we want to understand the context, because the context is very important. It varies. So one thing that is maybe sustainable, can be implemented in one context, may not necessarily work in the other. So when you are studying implementation, you want to be mindful of the context. Realist evaluation is gaining grounds when it comes to health systems research, because here in the approaches is theory-driven. You want to look at the underlying mechanisms, how health policies, pharmaceutical policies produce outcomes. The third innovation is big data, digital health technologies. And I think today we've heard a lot about artificial intelligence and how we can leverage large health records, mobile health. Now, there are a lot of interventions around mobile health. If you want to study, research, how do you go around this? You can use artificial intelligence to have predictive analysis. Okay, so this is another initiatives when it comes to health systems research. The final one I want to look at is mixed methods and participatory method. There are a lot of discussions around co-production. Okay, so in doing health systems research, the end point is the results should be taken up by policymakers, for example. One way to encourage uptake of findings from research is to involve them from the beginning. So co-producing the research objectives and involving them, if they have time, in data collection. Now, when they appreciate the whole processes, then it's easier for them to take the results and implement. And this is the bottom line of undertaking such a research. Of course, qualitative, quantitative methods are also being used, and focusing a bit more on how and why questions. We want to know why this is happening within this context. Why is it different from the other? To wrap up, the game changer is systems thinking and complexity science. And this is more like a paradigm shift, where we are looking at how can we conceptualize, design, and evaluate complex adaptive health systems. Okay. It's important because when you have systems thinking cap on, you are looking at a holistic way of understanding the health system. You want to understand if there are any feedback loops. What are the emerging behaviors within the health system, and how is context or the different actors changing the way you have anticipated to, let's say, evaluate a system? This is quite important. With the system thinking, is also helping us to design and implement policies better. Because we are not thinking traditionally in a linear manner. I know when I should come up with a policy, I set the agenda, the policy is developed and implemented. I'm thinking of what are the unexpected events that could happen such that the policy is not implemented as intended. So the game changer really is systems thinking. So the final question is, what can MethodsNET, how can MethodsNET contribute? And I think the bottom line will be, one, bringing like thinking experts together. One, also promoting the use of health systems research methods and teaching it as well. This is something that I think will be very useful within the field. Thank you.
Thank you, Agostina. Thank you, MethodsNet, for the invitation to be here. My name's Chris Shaw. I'm a social anthropologist, and I'm going to take. I decided to take the question that Bart put to us at face value and quite literally. What are the main ongoing methodological developments? Well, being a social anthropologist, according to the legend, our discipline was born from Malinowski's then revolutionary idea of carrying out long-term fieldwork through participant observation and deep immersion in the everyday lives and cultural worlds of other people. So it's the methodological approach that kind of foregrounds personal experience and deep engagement. So what George Marcus kind of dismissively termed deep hanging out and ethnographic writing. But I think to be true, participant observation continues to be kind of anthropology's signature methodology. And ethnography, well, yeah, it has always meant an attempt to understand another life world using the self as much as possible as the instrument of knowing. So it implicates you deeply, personally, in the engagement in what you're trying to understand. But the bottom line has always been that your methods that you use are only ever as good as the questions that you seek answers to. And that said, I think, for decades now, most anthropologists, if they're honest, would recognize that this idea that there's some sort of spatially bounded or field, or the idea that being there is this ontological imperative for all anthropological study is nonsense. And that's because not everything that shapes people's experience and lives can be observed directly in the field. We're not crude empiricists. Reality is not inscribed on its surface. And that's why I think that the best and most exciting anthropology, at least in my world, has always been one that tries to combine theory and ethnography. It's what Paul Willis famously described as TIEs, theoretically informed ethnographic studies, where you try to bring together through fieldwork the political economy approaches with deep personal ethnographic engagement. And fieldwork today covers the kind of a very diverse and promiscuous set of methods, and the field itself expands to meet all sorts of areas, issues, and sites across multiple domains and levels. So for me, this was the most exciting methodological development in anthropology, when we combine personal experience with political economy perspectives to try to understand the deep historical, material context in which people live and how people make sense of their lives. Combining the macro and the micro then gives you this sort of three-dimensional perspective. But what about this game changer question? Well, for me, it wasn't so much the discovery of a new method as the realization that the power of anthropological analysis, when you shift the focus of what you're trying to understand away from the cliche colonial tropes of always studying poor peasants in the peripheries and marginalized peoples who can't really speak back, and use anthropological's wonderful toolkit to study up, to use Laura Nader's phrase, to turn the anthropological gaze onto the rich and the powerful, the hidden histories, the institutions, the banking systems, the financial institutions that really do shape our lives, the military-industrial complex that has characterized, Western societies like the United States for years. And that, in a way, turning that focus onto economic and political elites and using anthropology to do so, for me personally, and for anthropology, I think in particular, was a huge game changer. I say personally, my PhD study, I began life as a curious about political systems, and I went to do fieldwork in Italy to do a PhD on the Italian Communist Party in the 1980s. Yeah, they still had one in the 1980s. It disappeared at the end of the 1980s, which made it quite hard to write a book about that. But then my next major fieldwork study was of the emergence of the EU civil service in Brussels, and the creation of the bureaucracy and the people who were inventing the single currency and so on. So both kind of examples of studying up. But then in the 1990s, my colleague Sue Wright and I started to problematize the concept of policy itself. What is this thing that we call policy and always take for granted? And from an anthropological perspective, we realized that policy meant many different things. It was a symbolic system, it was a blueprint for action, a charter. It had a mythic function in many societies. It acted like a free-floating signifier. It legitimized certain actions and narratives, but it was also an actant and a political technology. So we started to problematize policy, and I think in a way that it was for me very much a game changer, because it set me off on a course, and it provided how can I put it? It provided a technique for studying power. I mean, everyone quotes George Marcus's famous dictum of multi-sited ethnography and follow that. And he talked about follow that metaphor or follow the money, but follow the policy. And when you do that, you realize that policy connects all these multiple sides. You create this epistemic communities through policies, people who may not realize it, that they are connected in this way by the policy and through a policy. So, yeah, in the 2000s, Sue Wright and I carried on with this by looking at the rise and spread of audit culture, which derived from the policies of new public management and neoliberalization, the application of neoliberal philosophies and thinking to reorganize the public sector. And my current project at the moment is looking at what's happening to universities and higher education as a result of some of these policies. So the final thing, what can MethodsNet do? I think encourage people to study up more and to be inventive and creative. Don't be inventive and creative in your use of methods. And yeah, if you want to study power, then perhaps a focus on policy and elite is a good way to start with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Before opening the floor to the audience, I just want to ask the panel members, is there something that you heard from your colleagues that you want to quickly reflect upon? Preferably like, I don't agree because Just something. Take that microphone.
Yeah, so policy making is power. Just to add that statement. Policy is power. Just that.
Okay. Thank you. So then the floor is yours. Are there any questions that you want to ask to the panel members? The coffee is not yet ready, so it's better that you ask questions. So it's like they have to ask. Yeah. Benoit, please, as many people that way he can run the stairs up and down. Yes, that's my side of the road. Yeah. Please briefly say your name and then... Yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Ina Malnikovska, Central European University. So nice Vienna. Again, encourage you to come and see on your own. And I have a question like icebreaker. So I want to encourage also you to talk about who is producing the knowledge. So we have currently a lot of discussion that the knowledge needs to be produced not only in the West, but around the world. But if we look at, and this is not something new, this discussion is going on already a couple of years at least. But when we again check where the reference is, who is most cited and so on in one or another areas, and it's still done in the West. So all these discussions about the dispersion, geographical, methodological dispersion of, while there is certain overlap with this as well. So those methods that are more attentive to the context are more in the developing countries, while more universal are in the West, so to say. And so what do you think, why it does not happen while these kind of discussions about decolonialization, post-colonization are still a kind of wishful thinking and there is little implementation? So probably it varies across methodological traditions, disciplinary traditions. So can you tell us a kind of good and bad stories? Thanks.
Okay, so a very small systems question, like, yeah.
Thank you very much. So who is producing the knowledge? With health systems policy research, it's a bit more context specific. So it will be the knowledge is being produced, I would say, in country, but there's a but, because sometimes you have donor support. So if it's, let's say, is a project or a research, depending on who is funding, they may have some ideas on what you should research on. And that may not necessarily be what, within context, the most important to look at. So the research, yes, will be in context, but the one paying, the one who has the purse is making the decision, more or less. That's one way. Another would be to look within the health systems level. Facilities do operational research. So they do day-to-day data collection, and that informs decisions that are being made. So that knowledge will be developed at that level, local level, and being used to inform decisions. So there are different ways to look at that. I hope that helps. Thank you.
Chris, do you want to add to that? Yeah, please go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I think there was a lot in your question, and one of the themes I think you were flagging is that, that knowledge, there's a very Eurocentric bias in the way in knowledge production, yeah, and what are we doing to challenge that and decolonization? I think that knowledge like power, like policy, it should be treated as a site of contestation. In most contexts, it is. We don't take it for granted. But you're right. There is a kind of global hierarchy of the centers of knowledge production. But I think we've seen in the last, the optimist in me likes to think that in the last decade or so, we have seen some quite serious challenges to that. I wear different hats. I live in the UK, but I'm also a New Zealander. And in New Zealand, there's been a huge recognition of Maori indigenous knowledge, and it's become institutionalized and governmentalized, actually, in ways. And with the recognition of the Treaty of Waitangi, it's been enshrined in all kinds of reforms of government, and that's quite an encouraging sign. Maybe not as encouraging, it's one of the few places where there's some encouraging developments, but across the Tasman in Australia, less so encouraging, I'm afraid.
One thing I like to add is data is power. So the people hold the data are very powerful. So a lot of in social sciences now that many private companies hold enormous amount of data about individuals. And so this issue of data access, issue of privacy, so those are important questions for both scholars and I think also the regulatory bodies of the government.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Yeah. Oh, you.
Hi, Megan Kumar from Northumbria University. Thank you all. I'm curious, so the MethodsNet introduction talked about human science research or something. And I'm a health economist that uses a lot of systems thinking, a lot of arts-based research methods. But I find in our work a big battle to overcome the biomedical model of RCTs and that gold standard word that everybody likes to throw around. So I'm curious about how you think about the hierarchy of evidence in your work.
Thank God I'm not in the panel.
I think, there's, as you say, in economics in particular, big emphasis on RCT, and some people believe that's the only way to get the causal inference. But, obviously I think there's advantages and disadvantages of both approaches. So there are a lot of recent work that tries to think about how to combine them. So how do we improve the external and the internal validity by combining experimental data with also observational data and vice versa. So sometimes people make those arguments just they want to stand out and, get some attention, but I think most people know that the both type of studies are useful for, different reasons. At least that's my own view.
Yeah, so before I answer this, what is evidence? Because then evidence means different things to different people. So before moving into academia, I worked in the Ministry of Health at national level. If you meet the Minister of Health and you present indicators, maternal health mortality rates, his question will be, so what do I do with that? Because then that's not very useful. So the question in health systems really will be, what is evidence and to whom? Is this very important? So when you come to the question of how would you rate, because randomized controlled trials evidence is not very useful if I'm making policy, I want to set agenda. But then decisions being made at the rural area that I think as a politician will affect my votes. This is very important to me, that evidence. So again, it depends on to whom is this evidence important and how it is ranked. And what are you doing with that evidence? Is it data, numbers? Is it text? Is it experience that people are telling you about? Or you are thinking about the possible votes you may lose as a politician? And I think that's something else that we can also think about when we think about the hierarchy of what is evidence.
Since you raised the spectre of the biomedical model, it's not just health research. I think the biomedical model is a problem for social sciences and humanities now through leakage and mission creep. It's one of the things I've really noticed over the last 2 decades is the way in which university ethics committees and IRBs in the United States tend to be dominated by people who have a very simplistic take, a very biomedical take on what constitutes ethics, to the point where it is now becoming almost impossible to do ethnographic research because by its very nature, it's deemed to be unethical. You know, how are you going to limit your study so you don't discover things that weren't pre-programmed into the research design? That was a literal question I got back from feedback from the REC. So they're very risk averse, and they think that doing research with people could be problematic if you haven't already ironed out all the parameters.
And I want to say something as well on this hierarchy because it struck me. I'm a sociologist working in the Faculty of Business and Economics and in a business school. And a few years ago, the Nobel Prize of Economics was awarded to a few econometricians and economists. They found out about natural experiments, right? And I still remember the discussion in the Faculty of Economics, and for me it was like, so what, all right? In sociology, anthropology, we've been using natural experiments for decades. And then there are two sides. Either you say like, you morons, all right, we've been there for decades, or it's like, yeah, thank God. So it's a slow process. So I'm more like, we need to follow the second one. So be happy with every step we take. We cannot overrule the RCT model by tomorrow. That's not going to happen. So it will be these small steps that we can and should take. And perhaps this is something that MethodsNet can really be helpful for as well. I'm pointing at you, but you don't have a microphone, so that's... yeah.
I'm going to ask a question, but maybe it's because of my confusion. When I look at the word innovation, and my name is Chama from Umia University, I've been wondering, because most of the methods that we've been discussing, like observation, ethnography, participatory research, health systems thinking, they have been talked about for more than a decade now, some for so many decades. So I'm wondering, why do we still think these are innovations? What is innovative about them? What is different from what other researchers did, let's say some decades ago, to what we are using now? I think it gets confusing for me because it's some of the methods that I learned when I was doing undergraduate studies, but they are still considered as innovations now. So maybe the panel can help me in my confusion. Thank you.
So maybe I can go first. Now, so traditionally when we are studying health interventions, you are usually looking at a linear effect. Now, systems thinking already exists, as you've said, in computing. The methods and approach already exist, but it's its application in trying to understand the health system. That's the innovation. I hope that helps in a short way.
I actually think we should beware being seduced by kind of weasel words, keywords like innovation, entrepreneurship. Actually, some of the best methods have been around for a very long time. And ethnography is the gift that keeps giving. Why? Because how else are you going to find out other people's worldview, what it feels like, what the experience of being in another culture, society, period in history, what it looks like and feels like if you don't actually go out and just try to put yourself in the shoes of the people whose world you want to understand. It's not innovative, it's not particularly new, but it keeps delivering radically new findings. So, yeah, innovation, I don't know whether it's innovative, but it's fun.
Okay. Okay, good. I was supposed to do an impressive roundup now, but that's impossible after what you said and what they've been saying. But I noted down 3 main takeaways, data is power, policy is power, ethnography is power. Thank you for this session. I don't know what's up now.
Okay, so thank you so much. So now we are all going to jog. No, we have a bit of time. We have 10-15 minutes to go to the panel rooms, which are all located in the building opposite, in the Leclerc building, ground floor. You have all directions in the guide and also in the document you received. Enjoy, and see you at 6:45 for the plenary lecture by Bagalechi Lisa.